Hey Film Buffs, welcome back to Film Feature 43. Today we're going to talk about Stranger Things Season 4 Volume 1, because I haven't seen Obi-Wan yet. That seems to be what more people are talking about of the two that came out on the same day, but I decided to take up the mantle and watch 9 hours of Stranger Things instead of watching Obi-Wan. So that's what got us here. I love Stranger Things. This is my channel, so that's what we're going to talk about. And you might say that Obi-Wan has to do with Star Wars, that's film. Stranger Things doesn't really have anything to do with film. It's not film adjacent. But whenever a TV show spends $30 million on a budget per episode, and they have a runtime of about an hour and a half for some of their episodes, that's about as close to film as a TV show gets. So that's why I decided to talk about it. With all that being said, there are going to be minor spoilers, and I try to stay away from plot stuff, but some of it's going to seep in, so if you didn't chug through it in a day or two like I did, maybe go watch it and come back and watch the review. So with all that being said, let's get into it. So one thing that everybody and their mother is going to talk about this season of Stranger Things is the darker tonal shift that we get from season 1 through 3 to this season. It's almost like as the kids mature and grow older, the themes of the show mature. You have the Goonies-esque antics of season 1 through 3, and started getting mature as we went on, and now we're full into teenage Nightmare on Elm Street type movies. I mean, we've gotten dark things before. We've got the death of Barb in season 1, and Bob in season 2, and Billy in season 3. It's almost like if you have a name that starts with B, you shouldn't live in Hawkins, Indiana. But even with their deaths, we haven't really gotten anything as dark as having a child massacre in the first scene, and we think 11 did it. And from there, it just doesn't let up. There's brutal murder after brutal murder after brutal murder, and it's on screen and we're seeing it. It's not like Benny's death in season 1 where he was shot off screen and we kind of saw it. We have an eyeless Freddy Krueger running around, and we almost seen him take out his own eyes. That's not something that we've seen before from Stranger Things, really. And for better or worse, I think that's where we're going to stay for the rest of Season 4 and Season 5. Also, another thing that people are going to mention, I think, is how this season kind of felt like Sideplots City, and maybe not in a bad way. It didn't take a complete shift and stop the series when each new side plot was introduced, like we did in season 2 with 11 going out and meeting her sister. All the side plots continue the story on down the road, but there are a lot to keep track of. You have Hopper in Russia and Team Save Hopper, and we have the California branch of the Hawkins Losers, and we have the Hawkins Losers and the Hawkins Jocks, and the team that's supposed to be getting 11's powers back, and that splits into past and present and kind of mangles together. And then you have the Watergate crew and the Right Side Up crew, and each side plot kind of splits off into their own side plots, but at least it's advancing the story onward, where in previous seasons we kind of just stopped the whole story to go look at this other side plot. They jump back and forth, and it's pretty concise. I don't mind it as much, but I could see people complaining about that if you're not into paying attention. If you're looking at your phone sometimes and looking back up, you might get a little lost, but all in all, I think they did well for what they're trying to jam-pack into this season. But with all that being said, there's no doubt that we're watching an episode of Stranger Things while we're watching this show. I mean, the camera work is exactly the same as the first season, even adding new tricks like shaky cam when we're getting into action scenes, and it's just beautiful and a spectacle to behold when you go from the right side up and we flip over to the upside down. It's the same beautiful camera work that we've gotten from the first 3 seasons, and they really didn't let up on that. Just technicality of this show in general with the CGI. Sometimes when they're upside down, it gets a little wonky, but overall, we get a de-aged Millie Bobby Brown, and it looks good. I mean, as good as you can, I think. Eventually we'll get better, but when you look at something like Finn Wolfhard, her co-star in It Chapter 2, he had this rubbery texture to him where I didn't feel that from 11 being de-aged. We also get, as we have in every other season, the homages to 80s cinema, where the first season was really Goonies and Jaws, Poltergeist, and Nightmare on Elm Street. As I mentioned before, we really took a heel turn and started going towards the Nightmare on Elm Street elements. I mean, Freddy Krueger is actually in this season. You can't get more homage than that. Besides that, you get people dying in midair, which is straight out of Nightmare on Elm Street, and talks of dreams and sins of the past, where that's kind of the whole theme of any movie that Freddy Krueger is in. It's something was done in the past and somebody's coming back for vengeance. And that is what this whole season is about. You also get obvious homages to Silence of the Lambs and Carrie. I mean, 11 literally cannot catch a break the whole way through this season, whether it's the weird kids that she's in the hospital with that are just like her, or just normal crappy kids that are in her school that everybody has in their school that dump on her constantly, that are lucky that she doesn't have her powers, because I've seen Carrie and I know what happens when you pick on a person with telekinesis. And even the government is coming after her. So overall, I think they do a good job of picking out these 80s movies. They've always done a good job of that, and doing an homage without doing a parody. And even having Robert Englund be cast in this, it just carries on the tradition of an homage to the 80s, like having Winona Ryder or Sean Astin or Paul Reiser show up in the show. That's just the love letter to the 80s that Stranger Things is. We also have returning characters. Ted Wheeler is still a turd in every scene that he's in. Billy pops back up, Papa returns, the OG Demogorgon, and even Barb swings in for a cameo or two, so it's nice to see some familiar faces. Steve gets his obligatory beating for the season, which is to be expected, and even the ties to the Upside Down are tied back to what has come before. It's almost like the rules of a trilogy that we got in Scream 3. Everything is linked to everything else. That being said, the monster in this is interesting. It doesn't look as cool as the Demogorgon or the Mind Flayer, but it's a thinking being instead of being kind of this just force of nature like the Demogorgon, or a thinking being like the Mind Flayer, but we didn't hear it talk. It didn't seem to have deliberate steps in the way that this villain has. We also get some more Hopper backstory, which is kind of interesting. We haven't really delved into why he was the alcoholic drug addict that he was in the first season, and we even get a few Mormon jokes thrown in about them having way too many kids and a cheaper by the dozen scene, so that's always fun. All in all, it's not my favorite season so far. That's probably reserved for either 1 or 3, but it's not bad. If you like the show, you're probably going to like it. You might have a few issues here and there with how they handled some stuff, but I think that it's still a good season so far. We still got 2 episodes to watch, 8 and 9, sometime midsummer, so I don't want to make a complete judgment thus far, but if you're planning on watching it, I would take a swing and watch it. I think you'll like it. But that's my review. Let me know what you guys think down below, and as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.